Good evening. I'm Joel Blackford, and this is Blackford Talks Prophecy. We're going to have a great time tonight. We'll be talking to Mitch Chapman and finding out about his ministry, finding out a little bit more about Africa. We'll talk prophecy. Don't worry about that. But the main thing is we'll be bringing Mitch in right now. And Mitch, I'd like you to introduce yourself to the audience and what you've been working on in Africa, and also let's start out maybe with South Florida because you started a Messianic congregation down there. So let's talk about Mitch.
Okay, well, thank you, Joel, for having me. And when somebody says, well, you're welcome, I always say it's always nice to be had. So,
Okay.
little Jewish humor.
And he'll be
Anyway,
working the Catskills later on this weekend.
uh, haven't been up that way in a very, very long time, but when I was a lot younger and a lot dumber, my parents would go away for about, well, my dad would go stay home, send my mom and my two sisters, my brother and myself away to the Catskills, and we'd be there for a good month and a half sometimes.
Wow.
So been a while, but that brings
So
back some memories
so if I
flashing
said
through
no,
my head.
nobody puts baby in the corner, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Mitch, tell us about your testimony. How did you find Yeshua as a Jew? I mean, were you raised Orthodox Jew or anything or nominally Jew?
No, and some people hold this against me, but I come from the Reform
Okay.
tradition, the Reform background. So we were, good Jews. We went to synagogue, or actually, we called it temple. The name of the congregation that we attended was called Temple Bethel. So for us, it was always temple. And that's how pretty much you can tell Reform Judaism from pretty much any other branch because it will have a temple in there. In any event, so I was bar mitzvahed at 13. I was a good um, Reform Jew and carried through, and at 16 became confirmed. And then, you finish high school, you're a young kid, you go on to college, and what do you know? You don't know anything. And so go off to college, get involved in the business world. And in essence, there was always this emptiness in me that I was never really happy doing what I went to school for, which was accounting and finance. So I dibbled and dabbled in that, and eventually, later in life, got involved in a situation that put me in a prison camp, federal prison camp in Jessup, Georgia.
Oh,
And I literally walked in the night before I was to report. I was never, ever arrested, but the night before I walked in to report, I took a train from Miami to go up to Jessup, Georgia, spent the night in the hotel, and then walked to the prison camp. The funny thing, and I remember this distinctly, is walking over the railroad tracks, and all of a sudden, uh, there's this pickup truck with a good old boy, and I see this big rifle sitting next to him, and I said, "Oh, okay." Oh, and then it dawns on me, this is Southeast Georgia, so that's good old boy. So he asked me where I'm going, and I said, "Well, I'm coming to visit with Uncle Sam for 10 months." And he didn't get that. It wasn't too funny for him, but took me into the pickup, and I got processed. So as I'm waiting for my prison issues and my laundry and where I'm going to be for the next 10 months of my life, I'm waiting outside. There's this bulletin board area, and I see a bunch of guys, and this is a group that's going to be coming in on Sunday. So this is a Friday. You can look it up on the calendar, July 9th, 1993. And the name of this group, A to J. And A to J, what is that? and they're known as Addicted to Jesus. Now, there's 5 to 7, I don't remember exactly, guys in this group, and every single one of them had one thing in common. And the commonality was with me as well. And that was every single one came from a drug addiction background. And I said to myself, I said, I'm in the right place. So the next morning, I wake up and I'm just hanging around after breakfast. I don't know, what's going on. This guy named Kevin comes over and says, "You just get in?" And I looked at him and I said, "How do you know?" And he said, "Well, if you look around, you're the only guy wearing prison blues."
Oh,
So I said, "Oh, okay." He asked me if I had a he asked me if I would like one. I said, "Yeah." So I told him where I was going to be, and he said, "You'll have one by the end of the day." And sure enough, um, when it was lights out time, on my bunk bed, there was this Bible. So I realized very, very quickly that my best decisions in my life at that point in time, and that was 32 years ago. So that was when I was 40, had got me to exactly where I was. And I knew I needed to make a change. Now, prior to that, I had a desire to study the Bible, whatever that really meant. The only Bible that I actually had was one that I received from the temple that I was bar mitzvahed in. And that Bible actually, Tanakh, that Tanakh actually got lost in a horrific car accident that I was involved in September of 1990, some almost 3 years before. And I still have the souvenir in my left forearm. It's a steel plate. So when people are with me, I say, I'm really screwy, and they look at me and what are you talking about? And I said, well, feel over here. These are all the screws. So I'm really screwy. Anyhow, fast forward, I had this desire to study the Bible. That Tanakh got lost in the car accident, and that was it. So people started to I had my hair was black and long because I wasn't shaving, and people looked at me and they knew I was Jewish only because of my look, and they would, when they saw me walking around with a Bible that was called the Christian Life Bible, they didn't know what to make of me. But long story short, an elderly gentleman named George Brown befriended me, asked me if I wanted to become involved in a correspondence study. And I said, sure. But I didn't know how much it cost because I had little money. He asked me if I could afford an envelope and a couple stamps. I said, yeah, I could do that. He said, you're in. Okay. Fast forward to July 30th, Friday night, 3 weeks later, mail call. I get my mail and the Bible study is there. Okay. So this is Erev Shabbat, but I don't know Shabbat. I just know it's Friday night, right? A good Reformed Jew on a Friday night, what do? We go out drinking, we go out partying, we do, anything, but we're not going to temple except if a Friday night happens to coincide with maybe Yom Teruah, Rosh
sure.
Hashanah, or Yom
Just
HaKippurim,
the
Yom
high
Kippur,
holidays. That's it.
maybe or maybe just maybe, we would always, of course, partake in a Seder, which was nothing more than a big fancy meal, or, one of the nights of Hanukkah. But other than that, not so much. After bar mitzvah and after confirmation, you were done.
Okay. Do you know how you get rid of
Anyhow, so
mice in a church?
that Bible
Mitch, do you
study,
know how to get rid of mice in the church?
I don't know, but I'm sure you're going to tell me.
You confirm them. They're gone. Same thing in Judaism. Bar mitzvah them, teach them a little
Oh,
bit,
okay.
confirm them. You're out the door. You never come back.
So is that where church mites come from?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and I have confirmed many
Okay.
kids in a church, and I don't know how many of them stuck around.
Uh,
Some, but you know,
so I'm getting, I have this Bible study and I'm opening it up and I'm deciding that I'm going to follow the instructions for probably the first time in my life.
okay.
So page one, I go through and start reading, and it says, before you start any one of these studies, pray this prayer. Okay. The only prayer I know is I know the Shema. Okay, that's it. I know
In
to be a
Hebrew,
hafta. Sorry.
in Hebrew, the Shema in Hebrew.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Shema
okay, okay,
Yisrael,
okay.
Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. And then the following verses, Deuteronomy 6:5 through 9. Um, so pretty much all that I know. Um, so I'm going through this, and so the prayer that they want me to pray is Psalm 190. Would see
Oh,
wonderful things from your Torah. Okay, so I'll, you know,
yeah.
and so I do that.
Okay.
Okay, so now we get to the first lesson. The first lesson is from it's the coin, it's the lost son. Okay,
Okay.
so you read scripture, and now there's
Just so you're aware, Mitch, we're losing a little bit more right now. You're freezing up, and so, but for some reason, Mitch, you've been freezing up, but it. Okay. Okay. Whoop, we lost Mitch. Okay, people, I'll handle it for a little while here. Uh, Mitch will come back on again, hopefully. Otherwise, I'll have to call him. I've never hosted a show where we've lost a guest and I've been the only host. So, anyway, the main thing is Mitch was born and bred a Reformed Jew, went to prison. Oh, that should be him again. So, let me click to get Mitch back on. And there he is. Whoops. There we go. Where's Mitch? Let me click this down. Hopefully I can see him again. Come on, Mitch. Click back on. Okay, where's my Mitch? Okay, so anyway, raised as a Reformed Jew, which in I hang around with mostly Orthodox Jews. So when they bump into a Reformed Jew, they treat them like they're Gentiles, and his storyline matches up with that. Let's see if he clicks back on again. Boy, he was freezing up. Um, Stick with us, people. The interview will be okay. He hasn't called yet. Oh, there we go. Add the stream. Hey,
you're
Mitch, you're back. You were
okay.
freezing up and then you just were lost.
All right, I'm trying to. I opened this window.
Yeah, and we're losing. Hopefully we can get your voice to work properly because we're losing you at times there with what you're saying. So far, the story is great, but unfortunately, it's freezing you up on the.
I'm going to start the volume a little bit.
Okay.
That will help.
Do you have a bandwidth issue
But
down there? Are you running off a good internet service provider?
I'm when I get back from Uganda,
Yeah.
I actually went to a room. So no control over all of the. Uh,
Okay.
my,
So he might be streaming a movie
but
right
I'm not
now.
100% certain.
Okay. So why do we do this? In case we're having problems with the bandwidth, let's have you switch. Can you switch your screen so that we only hear your voice and we don't see your face? Do you see a button for that?
Uh, I'm not
Yeah. Unfortunately,
technically.
Well, let's just try it again and see if we can get. So the story is you're a Reformed Jew, you grew up, and then you went to prison. They gave you the Bible, and now you're dealing with the fact that you've never read these verses before.
Right. So, uh, reading the scripture and multiple choice and the false, there's an essay section.
Okay.
The essay section is called "What Do You Think?" The first "What do you think?" question is, "Are you saved?" Now, I'm in a dilemma, a really big dilemma. The coin's lost, the sheep is lost, the son is lost, and they were all found. And I know I'm lost. But the problem becomes if I'm lost, that means that I'm a sinner. If I'm a sinner, I need a savior. And I just realized by reading the scripture that Yeshua is the savior. Now, back then, I don't know Yeshua. I only know Jesus. And Jesus, of course, is not for any Jewish person in their right mind, of course.
And so even the name of Jesus was a problem for you, right? Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely. And so, because I come from the business world and because my brilliant mind got me into got me to where I actually was in prison by thinking things through and thinking I knew everything, which I really didn't, I decided to do what I would always do. I would find a way to wiggle out, right? There's always a wiggle
Sure.
clause, right? Okay. So what do I do? I go back, I read the scripture. Okay. I answer the multiple choice. I answer the true and false. Now I come to the what do you think? And I have a problem. I go through this 3 different times, and each time I'm getting backed up into a corner. And now I'm in a corner and I have nowhere to go because I know I'm lost in sauce. I know that Jesus is the Savior, He's the Messiah, and I'm a sinner. I need salvation. And now this wrestling occurs. So years later, I learned that what I had on that July 30, that Friday night, was intellectual assent, theologically,
Okay.
big deal. Okay. So I go to sleep. And I'm in a where we were. I was in a top bunk on the second floor in dorm B. Okay, about 450 men in this prison camp. I wake up the next morning, and through the night, I'm wrestling. This is almost like Jacob wrestling. You know, and to myself, he can't be. Yes, he is. No, he isn't. Yes, he is. He can't be. Yes, he is. No, he isn't. And I'm wrestling back and forth in my mind. I wake up the next morning. I literally jump out of bed, and maybe about 3 feet away from where the bunk beds were is a desk. On the desk is my brand new Bible that I've had for 3 weeks. It's nice and clean and crisp and no yellow pages and no crinkles and no writing and no coloring, no underlining. You get the drift. Okay. I open it up and I'm aghast. There's no place, no flyer in there or anything to left off yesterday. So you pick it up, nothing. And the divine providence, I open up and I'm totally aghast because I opened up to Deuteronomy 6:4, which is the Shema.
Shema, yeah.
And then I knew it was over and done. That was it. The funny thing was that I had been prepped for the previous 3 weeks, and I was in what was called Jesus corner of the camp. Everybody in that dorm was almost everybody on the second floor was a believer. You know, there were many guys in there for political reasons, and of course, everybody in prison. You know, we didn't do it. I didn't do some of the things that I got charged with, but I did a lot of the things that I was charged with, so it balanced out. In any event, but I knew that I had to. I was prepped that it wasn't if you come to faith, but when you come to faith. It was always when, not if. When you come to faith, find one of us and we'll pray with you. And I'm looking around, I'm sweating. Now it's again, it's almost it's chow time, but it's a Saturday morning and people are on visit. So I'm looking around, I haven't eaten, so I go to the mess hall and I'm looking around, who's there? I see one of my buddies who turns out to be one of my early mentors. And I sit down, we're eating, blah, blah, blah. And he's looking at me like, what's up with you? And his name was Larry. And I said, Larry, it's time to take that walk. Okay. Now we had a small little track there. It was 3 laps to a mile. And he said, how many laps today? And I said, Larry, that's not what I'm talking about. He knew that I knew what I was talking about. He said, okay, let's go. We go back to the dorm and he gets this other guy, can't remember his name, but I see him in my mind's eye. And so there's the 3 of us. Larry's leading in prayer. I don't know what to do. You know, I really don't. And he's holding my hands and he's, you know, like shaking. It's like, come on, come on, come on. And I don't know what to do. He says, if this is, do you want to do this? Or if not, it's okay. I said, no. He said, well, repeat after me. Oh, now I have some directions. Okay. So blah, blah, blah. He leads me through in prayer. And there was this relief. I bawled like a baby that I hadn't bawled in years and years and years and years. Now, here's a very interesting thing, and you cannot make this up. Or you can, but with me, it's verifiable. When I was born on March 30, 1953, it happened to be Erev Pesach. When I walked into that prison camp, it was July 9th of 93. And when I looked on the calendar just recently, I realized that it was between the straits, the 3-week period between the 17th of Tammuz and the 9th of Av. Okay? But that's Shabbat. July 31st of 1993 has a special name. It's called Shabbat Nachamu, the Shabbat of comfort. On Shabbat Nachamu, the Shabbat of comfort, I became comforted by the Comforter and came to faith. And at that point in time, I knew that I was called into ministry. It's a personal thing. You know, people say, yeah, this, that, and the other thing. When it becomes a personal thing that you have experienced, it doesn't matter to anybody else, you know, that, oh, this guy's quacky, but to you, you know, it's real because you went through it. And so it took a very, very long time for that to manifest itself. And fast forward a couple of years now. So now we're in the summer of 2016. I'm sorry, 2014. My car is about to be repossessed. And I have 3 things that I have to pay every month. I have a car note, I have the car insurance, and I have rent. But I only have money for 1 every month, and I'm juggling. The car note company, they had if you didn't pay, you would be able to put it on the back, and I had to do that a couple of times. And then I said to them, you know, I think you give me 4 different times. I'm down to my last one. What happens next? And they said, well, there would be a repossession. And I said, well, okay. Can you explain that to me? So they did, and they said, well, it could be voluntary. you turn in your car or we come and get it. Oh, okay. Anyway, they came and got it. And, that was a blessing because now without the car, I had no car note. I had no car insurance to pay. I only had rent. I could start making rent on a, on a regular basis.
Oh, Mitch.
But I now you have no car in South Florida without a car. It's very difficult to get around. So yeah, I did the bus thing for 3
What years
years,
again? Help me with the
and
years.
then this is from 2014
So this is
through
recent history.
2000. This is only
Yeah,
8 years ago,
yeah.
2017. So I went without a car for 3 years. Taking bus, getting picked up at my apartment to go to synagogue, back and forth, etc. And but in the interim, before all of that happened, I was working as a courier, driving all across the state of Florida. Had a small little company with a guy that I met. We were a courier for this one company, and we decided to form our own company. And we did. We had a contract with UPS. We got a contract with FedEx. We got a contract with a company that was what was it called? I can't remember the name, but they were the ground delivery people for Amazon before Amazon had all of these
Oh,
fleet
okay.
of trucks rolling
Yeah.
around. And we got the contract, so we ruled the night. I come home one night and I'm spent, and I fall out on my queenless king size bed. And I say, Lord, I can't do this anymore without you in my life because I was out there. Now I am a
Right.
believer. I'm a believer at that time for 11 years or so. And I'm out in the world. I'm out there. I'm really in a bad place. And I'm bawling like a baby on my bed. And when you're on your back, you can only look up. And I say, I can't do this anymore without you in my life. And from now on, whatever you want me to do, I'm going to do. No ifs, ands, or buts. From now on, I give myself back to you. From the top of my head to the bottom of my feet and everything in between, I'm all yours. And wherever you want me to go, I'm going to go, however I can get there. Okay. All right. And then I repeated it. I go through the same thing. And then after doing all of that, out of nowhere, completely out of nowhere, I actually said, and even if you want me to go to Africa,
Oh,
I will
wow.
go. Now, at that point in time in my life, I'm kind of planning for some kind of retirement. And I'm looking at Mexico, Dominican Republic, um, Ecuador, Colombia, um, and a couple of other countries, maybe Panama, Costa Rica. Africa's not on the radar screen at all. People at synagogue, who got to know me would understand this. And it would the Colombians, you got to go to Colombia. The Ecuadorians, you have to go to Ecuador. Fighting all the time as to where they want me to go to spend the rest of my life, whenever that's going to be. And so, okay, but I still, then shortly thereafter, the car gets repoed, and now what am I doing? That's not going to be anything. Well, it turns out that Shavuot of 2016, our Messianic synagogue, Kehilat Bet Davinu, and if you're ever down in South Florida, come on by. You can look us up online. You'll be more than welcome to come. And if you happen to want to take a peek at us on Shabbat, we get started at 11 o'clock on Shabbat. So come and join us. In any event, I'm so this is now Shavuot 2016, and I'm hearing testimonies from two men who turn out to be mentors of sorts in my life. And I'm hearing how they were, this one guy was one side of a stream. It's pretty deep. He doesn't know how he's going to get to the other side. And he says, your word says, if you believe in me, you can do greater things than this. And he just starts walking. And somehow he got to the other side. I hear the other guy give a similar testimony. And I'm like, that's for you. That's not for me. Not for me at all. Well, at that point in time, I'm still down and almost out, but I'm resilient. And I had a couple of very loving sisters who understood, looked at me and knew something was wrong, didn't know what. They yanked me. They took me into the conference area and they started praying over me. And I eventually broke. Fast forward, so that's June of 2016. Fast forward to Thanksgiving of that year. And now I finally found a position that could turn into something because I've been working. I work a couple weeks here. I had to leave for one reason or another. Couldn't go back to doctor's appointments. I got involved in another law enforcement situation. They thought I was the next thing to Bernie Madoff, and it was a bad situation. Yeah, really, really bad. In any event, so finally get through all of that, and as soon as that 5-year period had ended, this new position comes up, and it's going to be a temp to perm. And the arrangement was you work for the first month, it'd be like an engagement. If we like you, we'll get married. If you like us, we'll get married. Okay. So we had a marriage. So now I'm gainfully employed for the first time in 3 years. Okay. And I'm saving money, but I'm still walking. Okay. I finally have enough money to put together to buy a car, and I get a car. However, at synagogue on Shabbat, we started to broadcast our service. So I would take my little trusty camera and I would, film one of our elders breaking down, giving a Torah summary. He would put together the Torah with the Haftorah and Brit Hadashah. And I put it up online in places all over that I was involved with Facebook. And I invited people wherever they were. And I said, basically, if you would like our in-depth Torah study notes, write to me. Send me your email. Let me know what country you're from, or where in the world you're at. And so and in a short period of time, there were 70, 75 people. And then a couple months later, I decided I would look into where are all of these people coming from. And 60 to 70% of them were from Africa.
Wow. There you go.
And I thought, there's got to be something here. I don't know what. And then I started to tell people, I'm going to Africa. I'm going. And they would say, this is before I had the job, before I had the car. That, Mitch, how you getting to Africa? You going to swim? You don't have a car. You don't have money to buy a plane ticket. You can't even pay rent. How you getting to Africa? I don't know, but I'm going to Africa. And I believed in my heart that one day it would manifest itself. Fast forward, it's now January 2017. I get a knock on my Facebook door from a guy in Kenya. I want you to preach to my congregation. Okay. How are we going to do that? Because I'm not going there and you're not coming here. He said, oh, we can do it online. And I don't know. I still don't know. I'm dead when it comes to techie things, as you found out, Joel.
True.
So we worked all that out. And then on February 22nd of 2017, I preached a little message into his congregation. And, we're talking, and it was out of the Genesis chapter
Okay.
5. The message was, "What's in a name?" And if you don't know, you can go through that chapter. You can look at all of the English names and find out what that name means in Hebrew, and you can put it all together, and you have what I refer to as one of the hidden prophecies of Messiah. Long and short is that 35 people came to faith, and I lost contact with that pastor for a while. He disappeared. About 2 months later, he comes back and he says, "You need to pray for me." I said, "Okay, pray for you for what reason?" "Well, I need to baptize 90 people." So I'm asking him, "Well, how does this 35 turn into 90?" And he tells me, "Well, when you were speaking in English, I was translating to Swahili and I was recording." And so what would happen, you told people to go out and tell somebody, and that's what they did. And when they didn't understand, they would bring them to me. If they had questions, all I did was I took the recorder, I played the recorder. And so that original 35 became 90. It snowballed to 250, which became 300, then 1,000, and it kept on snowballing out of nowhere. And a month before I took my first trip to Africa, at that time it was going to be Uganda and Kenya. The month before I was going, at that point in time, over three no, over 3,000 people had come to faith by that
Wow.
message. Um, there were probably, if I remember, and I'm not one of these guys that's another notch on the salvation belt. I gave that up
Yeah.
a long time ago. Um, it's like a big deal. Where are they now? Are they being discipled? No, of course not. You say a prayer and you go. But at that point in time, a good portion of these people had come from a Jewish background, and a good portion of them as well had become baptized. So when that first event happened, I'm talking to some friends from Zimbabwe, and that this is back in 2017, right after this happened. And he says, "You have a ministry." And I said, "Yeah, I know." He said, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "The only thing I know how to do, I know they don't have Bibles. I got to get them Bibles somehow." So, now the issue with everybody in the States, and I don't know if it's you, has happened to you, but it continues to happen to me. So many people knock, knock, knock. I have a problem. They turn out to be from Africa. You don't know who they are, and you're going to just throw them away because you don't know who they are. You don't know what their issue is. Maybe you want to help, but you just don't, and that's okay. And I was the same way. It's like, I don't know this guy. I'm not sending him money 'cause I don't know what he's
Right.
gonna do with it. So I'll figure out a way to get Bibles without him being directly involved. So I called Bible Society, told them what the issue was, and they said, "No problem. We have a sister Bible society in Kenya. You send us money, we send it to them, and they will deliver the Bibles to wherever they need to go." Perfect.
That's a wonderful idea.
That's what happened. Now, so people ask me, people who have gotten to know me outside of synagogue, ask me, "Well, how do we know that you're kosher?" And I said, "Well, that's a great question." So the answer to that is very, very simple. Um, the way that African Messianic Outreach is structured is that we are, and purposely so, we are a ministry of Kehillat Bet Avinu. Kehillat Bet Avinu is my spiritual covering. Okay. Learned this a long time ago when I was in the church, is that if you're going to become a missionary, you're going to go out there, You need some type of covering, spiritual, not only for prayer support, but physical, financial support. But you need
Yeah.
accountability. You can't be a one-off Yahoo, okay? As many people are. And who are you? Okay, where do you come from? What are you really doing? How do we know? And I get all of that as well. But I got
Sure.
pictures. Okay, so um, the bottom line here is that African Messianic Outreach (AMO) is a ministry of Kahila Betabino, and Kahila Betabino is 501c3, and that's the Good Housekeeping Seal of Approval, or the Good Housekeeping Seal of Koshericity. Okay, in my world. And so people ask me, well, who, if I wanted to give, what can I do? And I said, the first thing is people don't really understand the tax laws. And it's so ingrained in our brain that an organization needs to be 501c3 or they're no good. And so people, that's the first question they ask. And if you're not, no, I'm not going to give. Okay, that's fine. So now I turn the tables around and I said, oh, let me ask you a question. When you file your tax return, do you itemize your deductions? And 90% of people don't. And I said, what difference does it make? You're looking for a tax deduction? Is that where your heart is?
Yeah.
Okay. So if your concern is we don't know who you are, okay, let me direct you to synagogue, and you can go to the outreach page and you'll see that African Messianic Outreach is a ministry of synagogue, Kehillat Bet Avinu. And on the homepage, you will see that Kehillat Bet Avinu is 501c3. And if you don't believe it, then I can direct you to the Secretary of State in Florida website. You can go look it up. The congregational registered name is Beth Avinu Synagogue. Okay. And there you will see that we're official in the state of Florida. And in Florida, your Florida tax ID number is actually your federal ID number. So it's the same. So anybody who is trying to wiggle out that way, got you covered. You can't wiggle out. Now, so, I'm not saying, I always leave it this way. I'm not like many, 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 small ministries, and I'm a small ministry. I'm it. Okay. I have people on the ground that I get to know. They come to faith. We start to disciple them. We start to raise them up. And as we get to know them, we provide a hand up, not a hand out. And their deal is if the ministry is going to provide you with any form of support, you need to provide pictures of what we gave you funds to do
Okay.
specifically. And if you don't, you're done. Okay. You lie to me and we're finished. Okay. That's it. Real simple. Okay. So, way back when, before I actually stepped foot in Africa, turned out to be a single mom with 3 young daughters at that time, came knocking on my door. We developed a friendship, and I knew something was not right. I didn't know what it was, and it turned out that her husband, as many do in Africa, got up and left. Okay, left her with her 3 daughters, but also they had a small orphanage. So the guy got up and left her alone with the 3 kids and the 10 children that they were supporting. And so I got to know her, et cetera. And before I actually stepped foot in Africa or on Uganda in 2018, I found out that they were walking a total of what would be 8 miles round trip to get water, to fetch water, basically 3 times a week. And I knew right then and there needed to build a borehole, a water well. And so we did. And my first event event coming to Africa in 2018 was dedicating that well. And, we were talking after we did it. And I said, got to pick a name for the well. And she couldn't come up with anything. And I said, well, you're in ministry. You've got the village people there, etc. I got a great idea. Let's call it Jacob's Well.
That's great.
And people are going to come because now they know that there's a water source that's local, and you don't have to go, you yourself and the children don't have to go walking all this way, and people will come and you'll develop it into some kind of a Bible study. And that's what's occurred. So, we've done some other things, but so basically for right now, I went to Africa 2018. It was Kenya for basically a month and a half. I'm sorry, 2 months. Uganda for 1 month, and Tanzania over the border from Kenya one day, overnight. I came back in 2019 for 6 weeks in Nigeria, 2 weeks in Zimbabwe. And I'll go back to Zimbabwe for a little bit because those are my Lemba cousins. And the interesting thing is Lemba are now very, very sexy because of Jewish Voice Ministry and Paul Wilbur. But the people who are my host, who are my actual blood cousins, long, long distance, but still my blood cousins, are the actual family that was connected to Jewish Voice Ministries and got them into Zimbabwe.
Okay.
So that's a whole nother thing. Anyway, so 6 weeks in Nigeria, 2 weeks in Zimbabwe, 1 month in Kenya, 3 days over the border in Tanzania again, and 2 months.
Where in Uganda? Which city?
At that point in time, I was the first trip. I was in a district called Wakiso, which is right outside of Kampala. About it's 30. Okay, so if you look on a map, anything in Uganda, when they tell you, when you find out travel time, minimally double it, and you might get there in that point in time.
Okay.
It's really bad. It really is. But so in 2019, it was below the equator, mostly in a district called Rakai. Also, some other places that nobody's ever heard of in Seguro, Kayatera, some other places I can't remember. I go back I couldn't go back until 2023. There was COVID. I had legal issues again related to my passport. And because the feds had people were working at home, and a lot of people still are, I think. Nobody was doing anything. So it took a very long time to get my passport. I finally was able to go back in 2023. It was supposed to be for the rest of my life, but I ended up becoming unwell, would be the East African term. And I came back after about 4 months. So it was at that point, it was except for about 3.5 weeks in Zimbabwe, everything was in Uganda. Came back in December, mid-December of 2023, and I finally was able to get myself healthy and some more money behind me by working, and that's where the bulk of the money comes from for this ministry. I talk to my rabbi from time to time, and I said, it's an amazing thing what this rinky-dinky little ministry has done that's underfunded, that has really nobody that's doing anything except me leading it. And look what he's done. And I believe with all of my heart no knock against all of the big Jewish ministries that are well known, well established, that are out there forever. Jews for Jesus, Chosen People Ministries, JBMI that I mentioned, and some others that are now become a little bit more prominent. Is they all have staff. They all have an administrative expense. I got nothing but me. Where's my money coming from? Social Security.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Okay.
Social Security and people at synagogue who know me and friends that I've met through Facebook who I get very little support. I am grateful for everything and anything that comes my way. And people will ask me this all of the time. I want to give to the ministry, or if they have the heart to do so, can I give to a specific project? Of course, you can give to a specific country, to a specific project in that country. You can do many different things, but all that we do is I ask you just to follow your heart. If you put it in your heart, then complete the doing of what you intended to do. And if it's going to be to African Messianic Outreach, God bless you. And if it's not, you'll still be blessed, but not so much.
Okay. So do you see the
Somebody asked,
question?
which town in
We talked
Yeah.
about Tororo
So somebody asked,
beforehand, Mobali or Busia or
okay,
Napak. Any of those?
all right. Anyway, so so that was 2023. I came, and I went back to work, got some more money behind me, and I left in August of last year, and I just came back on June 19th. I had to come. I didn't want to come back, and I never intended to come back, but knew that I had to, because there's lots of personal things that you can't do when you're 7,666 miles away from a bank that needs to see you face to face, and some other things that you have to do. Okay, so that's why I'm here. I will be going
Okay.
back no later than October
Oh,
15th. And what I did at the end of January, beginning of February of this year, I started an application for a 5-year work permit. So that would mean that I could, when that becomes approved, and I'm supposed to get the notification sometime next week that is finalized. When that becomes finalized, then I can make my final plans to actually go, and I'll be there for 5 years. I don't have to come back and forth and back and forth. But I do know that eventually that I will become a dual citizen, a Uganda, and I'm not giving up U.S.
right.
citizen. If I do that, there goes
Right.
Social Security. Why would
Right.
you do
Yeah.
that? Okay, and then in any event. So what do we do on the ground? Okay, we have a we have. I always talk in the plural because it's not me. Well, it is. It's me, myself, and I. But here's really the three people, and it's not the Trinity, or you can call it the Triunity, however you like it. There's only one God, and He can manifest Himself in any which way that He likes to, and He did. Okay, so we're not getting involved in theological things of this that. No, we're not. We're not doing that. Okay. Regardless, we do know any which way you want to cut it. There's the Father, there's the Son, and there is the Holy Spirit. Okay, so that's the three people. And the fivefold ministry is not what you read in Ephesians chapter 4. The fivefold ministry, this is the real fivefold ministry. Okay, you don't have to agree with me. It's okay if you don't. We proclaim, we don't preach. Preaching, if you do the word search, comes from the Hebrew kara, means to call out, it means to proclaim. Yeshua was not preaching anywhere. He was proclaiming the kingdom of God. That's what the apostles were doing, and that's what Shaul was doing every Shabbat. When he went into a town, he wanted to know two things. Number one, where's the synagogue? And number two, where's the jail? Because I know when I'm preaching in the synagogue, I'm going to end up in jail.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
So we do proclaiming or preaching, we do teaching, mentoring, discipling, biblical counsel, leadership training, and evangelism training, which is the last thing that we're involved with. We understand. I know personally the church has gotten it wrong. Sad to say, but they've gotten it wrong. Their emphasis is on bringing people in, and maybe, so you bring them in, they say a prayer, and then what? Where's the discipleship? What does Yeshua say in Matthew 5:17? What does he say? Okay. And then also, what does he say in Matthew 28:19 and 20? Let's go to 19 and 20 first in Matthew 28. He says, go, and that's where typically the church stops. They say that the going is evangelizing. They don't read the rest. Go and do what? Go and make disciples. Now, here's the question. This is an age-old church question. How do you make disciples unless you get them saved? Aha. You don't know how it worked in the first century. And we're supposed to walk as Yeshua walked. And what is discipleship? It's living out Torah everywhere you go. And I never understood that until a couple years ago. The biggest beef that I've had with my rabbi is because I came from a very highly evangelic Baptist church. And that's what I knew. Plus, in that church, I was the trainer of the evangelism ministry in that church. And a long time ago, I became certified for whatever that means now. I became a certified trainer of a ministry that's called Evangelism Explosion. So I became the trainer of the trainers in that church. He says, go and make disciples and teach them what? Teach them what I commanded you. Where are the commands? In the Torah. There is not one of these so-called 1,050 new commands that Yeshua said, the so-called new commands that Yeshua said, that are either not directly Torah related or indirectly Torah related. There's nothing new, as Solomon said, under the sun. That's it, my friends. I'm sorry to break the good news to you, but that's what it is. Okay. So, that's a major issue. So our function, major function, is discipleship, 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 discipleship. And if you weren't listening, it's still discipleship. That's what we're all about. I know personally all of the different conferences that I went to. I was always a counselor. I was always praying with people. In the churches that I was in, I led the Angel Tree Ministry, a ministry of prison fellowship, that we would buy gifts for children of inmates. We would go into homes, we would present the gospel, and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, which became, it doesn't matter anymore how many people came to faith that way, by saying a prayer. Where are they now? No idea. No idea at all. Very, very sad. So when you understand first century discipleship and how a rabbi discipled his Talmud, what discipleship was all about. The disciples ate, slept, memorized everything about their rabbi. They spent time with him. It wasn't, maybe on a good Sunday, maybe 2 hours, maybe 3 hours. Hardly anybody has midweek Bible study anymore. So then what? What are you doing the rest of the time of the week? 2 Corinthians. We are an epistle read by everyone. Wherever we go, people see us. They know about us. Are we somebody different? How are we living out our life? Is our life different on Shabbat than it is every other day of the week? On Shabbat, do we just turn on a switch and then it goes off when Shabbat is over? And then we go back to being who we were the other 6 days of the week? If that's you, then you're being a hypocrite. That's what Yeshua called putting on a mask. So those days are long gone and over. And I've been able to do is I've been connected with a bunch of different groups throughout Uganda. And there are approximately maybe 35 to 40 different Messianic congregations that refer to me as their rabbi. Now, for whatever it's worth, and wherever I go, I start off and I introduce myself this way. I don't know what it matters to you, but I am a Jew through and through. I'm a bar mitzvah boy and ordained rabbi by 2 different bodies. Yes,
Okay.
it's true.
Okay.
However, all of that makes no difference in the big scheme of things because on July 31st of 1991 plus 2, I became born anew. What about you? And I start off, that's my introduction. And I start off and I say, the biggest question that anybody has to answer, no matter where you come from, boy, girl, man, woman, however old or young you are, is who do you say that I am? Not me, Yeshua. He's talking. He asked that question of the disciples. So I leave it there and I said, we'll come back to that. Then we get on with the meeting and then bring it home. And then that leads into a presentation of not the gospel, but the gospel of the kingdom. And with me, it's not a prayer. You're not praying a prayer when you're done. It's not one and done. Okay, like in college basketball, we don't have any ones and dones. If you're not ready to make a commitment, because that's what this is. This is a commitment for the rest of your life. Like it or not, maybe no one's ever told you before. That's what it is. It's a commitment. If you're not ready to make a commitment, then go and sit down. You're not going to offend me. This is your life, not mine. I already made the commitment. And now I have some people go and sit down because they're not ready. That's fine. No judgment. But now I have people that at least in their mind understand that they're not just going to say a prayer and, oh, I'm going to heaven. Hallelujah. Okay. Not anything like that. They understand what they're getting themselves into. At least they have some basics of understanding. And so people still come to faith and we follow up and we do discipleship the best way that we can. And I found what is most effective is starting with the pastors. There are many pastors who have a very, very big heart, but sadly, just off on a lot of different basic things theologically. And it's no fault of them because there's no Bible college, and they sat under somebody that was the same thing, and you become a product of who you sit under. I've been extremely fortunate in my spiritual life, which on this 32 years, and this Shabbat, if you didn't know, is Shabbat Nachamu, which is always a special Shabbat in my life because 32 years ago on Shabbat Nachamu, I came to faith. So that's what we do. We have this last trip. There were 3 different leadership empowerment conferences, and we're finally getting somewhere, making, I can see that people are starting to become transformed. And if you did not know, the Bible, the Torah, whatever you want to call it, the word, okay, the gospel, it is basically comes down to three things. It's relational, it's confrontational, and it's transformational. It's relational because it will meet you anywhere that you are in life. It's confrontational because if you're actually reading, you're going to be confronted with things that you know you're doing that you shouldn't, and things that you're not doing that you know that you should. And if you're opening your heart and you have an open heart, you'll be confronted, you won't run away, and you'll start to change, which is where the transformation comes in. And the only way, really the only way that you can know that somebody is a believer, and this is my fruit test, is a transformed life. I come from, before I came to faith, I talked about it a little bit. I was a crackhead.
Oh,
Okay. You wouldn't know
no.
it by looking at me today. Yeah, nobody was. And so don't tell me, okay, that the Bible is not relational. Don't tell me the Bible is not confrontational. And don't ever dare tell me the Bible cannot be transformational, because it transformed me and I'm living proof.
Wow.
And as people ask me, well, how did you become a rabbi? And I still don't know, because I say it this way. If there was a bar mitzvah class way back when, 59 years ago, when I was being prepared to have my bar mitzvah, but there wasn't one, the least likely to ever become a rabbi. Adonai has a sense of humor. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. My story, and I'm sticking to it, Regis.
Okay. Okay, we heard your story. So basically, Mitch, what I'm telling you is that I have friends that are in the chatter section, and they're commenting on their ministries over in Uganda and other areas. And so I have a friend in town here named Carol, and she works with Emily is involved too. And so we have a fellow by the name of Stanley that's in Dororo, runs a ministry. And so we'll just get you together with them. We'll try to figure out a way to get you on a conversation with them and figure out how you
Sure.
can work together, share some of the work.
Okay. Well, I'll say this, that I just had a conversation with 5 of the leaders that I've gotten to know in Uganda over a course of time. Most of them I've gotten to know since 2023, but these guys they're serious. They want to learn. They're actual leaders, and they live their life the right way. So there will be another leadership empowerment conference that will be held in Iganga. It
Where's
will
that?
be for 5
Where's
days.
Uganda?
Iganga is about an hour north of Jinja, which is about 3 hours north of, or I should say east, sorry, east of Kampala, which is the
Okay.
capital. So I see that there's a lot of people here are asking me where in
Well,
Uganda, et cetera, et
Kiso,
cetera.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah. So those people would know pretty much, I believe, where
Okay.
Iganga is. Okay, it's up east, and it will be January 12th, which is a Monday. You have to report Sunday night because we're starting early at 9 o'clock. There's no walk-ins, and it will go through Thursday the 15th, and then you'll break after lunch on that Thursday. Now, there will be a cost. For some, it's I get how it is in Uganda. I've been there. So, okay, but there is a cost. The cost is 40,000, which is not a lot in US. Right now it's about $15, 15 US. Okay. In Uganda, 40,000 is a lot. Okay. It's a lot. But also because of the handouts, every congregation is required. Well, we are strongly requesting at a minimum of 2 people from each congregation come, but each congregation must pay 30,000 to provide for the copying material that is going to be the basis of solid discipleship that they will learn at the conference, and they in turn can take it back to their congregations and start to teach that way. Little by little by little, because I am called to Uganda to live out the rest of my life. And prayerfully, when I return, I'm going to be buried there. I'm 72. I have a good 20 years left in the tank. I'm not going anywhere. People in Uganda know I'm coming back and I'm the real deal. But in addition to the Messianic congregations that I've worked with, there's a little side to that, if you will, of the Jewish people in Uganda that are known as the Abiyadaya. Abiyadaya is a Luganda word. Luganda is the native language in Uganda, although in school they're taught English. So there's 3 languages that are basically spoken in Uganda: English, Luganda, and Swahili. There are different dialects that come out of Luganda. There's Luweri, there's a whole bunch of crazy ones. There's like 34 different dialects. It's really weird. But you come to America, everybody speaks English, but we all have a different accent. It's a different dialect, right? So every now and then my New York comes out.
I hear it every now and then. Yes, I do. What part of New York?
Well, I grew up in Bergen County, New Jersey, over the George Washington Bridge.
I know
So,
Bergen. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
okay, I grew up in Closter.
Yeah,
So,
I used to work in Morris Plains. I would come to Morris Plains
okay,
at times. In Bergen County, I
that's a
think
little bit,
a little bit, yeah. But Jonathan Kahn, I think, preaches in Bergen.
he used to be in
Yeah.
Bergen County, and now he's
Oh,
in
he's
Wayne
in Wayne.
County.
You're right.
I
Yeah.
knew, I knew Jonathan a long time ago, before he became so
Yeah, he
big
had some
as he is
issues
now.
with chemicals too, years ago.
Yeah, and you heard that from Tony last week as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Not the
that's,
end of your life. It
so
might be the beginning.
yeah, something like that. So, I used to get high on rock, and now rock is my God,
There you go.
the rock is my God. So I get high on the Most High. So so we have this ministry to the Jewish people in Uganda, the Abiyadaya. We have planted 4 different, not with there were synagogues already there, but now they've become believers, so now they're Messianic Jews. There's one particular gentleman who was ordained as an Orthodox rabbi. He's a very interesting guy, and I've taken him as much as I can, with difference in all of the things that he's involved in, a personal interest in him. And when I talk with him, he gets it pretty quick, because I can talk to him in a way that many people can't. And to Jewish people at large, I have a unique way of showing them that what they think it is, it's really not. And that's for another time. But those are some of the things that we're involved with. And right now, so there's the 40,000 per person to attend the conference. There's 30,000 for the copying material per congregation. If you don't have it all at once, that's fine. I'm not collecting the money. There's somebody yet to be named as the treasurer, But if you would like to any additional information, you can write to me. You can find me on Facebook. You can do it through Messenger or my email or on WhatsApp.
I'm going to share your contact
I'm
information with my friends from Uganda. So yeah, I'll do that.
okay. Thank you, Joel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Putting people
I'm
together.
findable.
You are.
I don't.
Most of these friends are not
Okay.
on Facebook.
So
Facebook has changed a little bit. And so I don't even broadcast this show to Facebook.
yeah,
And I could.
I'm because of my technical challenges, I'm still there.
All right. Now,
But
you
that's
have the
another story.
ministry, but you know that Yeshua is coming back
Uh-huh.
again, maybe soon, maybe within 7,
Right.
8 years. How does that affect your ministry? Do you think about that, or you're just doing what you do?
We do what we do. I have never really been an end times prophecy guy.
Okay.
And probably the reason, I'll give two reasons why, none of which are
Okay.
theological.
Sure. Go for it.
Okay. The first one is when I was in the church, I was co-laboring or co-leading a Jewish ministry in a very prolific independent Baptist church. And who I was co-laboring with, basically, he was the second coming of
One of those
Van
guys.
Impe.
Memorize everything,
And
every verse.
yeah, not only, but everything that would happen, he would tie it to something in the
Yeah.
Bible. And he got involved. He actually was one of the many in our church at that time that were all over the pastor. So he was big on
Oh,
Y2K.
yeah.
What are we going to, blah, blah, the world's going to blow up and all this other stuff. And
That
nothing
was
happened.
25 years ago. Nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
Yeah.
Not only did nothing ever happen worldwide, but they never took him down because of his false prophecy.
Oh.
Never took him down.
Okay. Now, are you saying your friend or Van Impe?
No, the guy I was co-laboring with.
Okay, so he actually predicted a date or something like Y2K. He said that's the date.
That's it. Yep.
Oh, that's a problem.
And everything that was happening in the world, he would find a scripture
Sure.
to back it up.
Sure.
And, that's just doesn't work that way. Now, I know how it really works that way. The way that works that way is you have a preconceived position. And then you're going to find anything and everything that backs up what your position is. And you're not moving. And we find that in many different theological, we get into a whole bunch of different things.
Dispensational,
but
some of the other terms that there's Calvinism and things like that, where there is predestination. So these arguments just go on forever, and you don't resolve anything.
Exactly. And the other reason is when the church that I was at the time sent me up to become a trainer of a certified trainer of evangelism explosion, I at my table, there were a table of 6. I was the only layperson. And there was a pastor there, of course, a local pastor from a town in South Florida, Hialeah. We got to, be friends, etc. He, and he invited me to come to and preach to his church. I said, okay. So he asked me, what am I gonna preach? And I said, Leviticus 23.
Oh, that's
so
great.
He said, okay, So, that I was the Leviticus 23 guy. Okay.
Sure.
I would, that's what I taught. Leviticus 23.
Sabbath,
Okay.
and then the other Moedim, we call them the festivals, right on through all the festivals.
Exactly. And, so I would teach it historical.
Sure.
prophetical
Sure.
and actual.
Sure.
So as we're getting closer, he said, can you write up something that, what we do, we put it in our bulletin. And I said, so I did that. I get there on that and I get the bulletin and I'm looking it up and he basically, this is what it was. I'll never forget this. This is, oh boy, this is a good 20, what year was that? 27 years ago. There are some things that just stay with you. Okay. I look at the bulletin and he says, are you an end time or are you a near time Christian? And that was a zinger. Okay. I understood what he was saying. He didn't understand where I was coming from. I got that. But I took that. I would talk to the guy that's now, gone on to glory that I was co-laboring with. And I said, why is it that this is all that you do? There's so much more. Why do you focus on this? We would do, we did a couple of radio shows together. And I remember questions would come. He would answer all the prophecy ones. One question came one time talking about, end times, of course, because that's, people are always a little bit tilted that way.
Sure.
And it's like, okay. So they said, well, www. And I'm thinking, and I don't know what they're talking about because I don't have internet. I don't even have a cell phone at that time. I have no clue. So my partner is about to answer, and I said, I got it. Let me answer it. He says, okay. So I said on the air, the only 3 W's I know of, WWW, is the Worldwide Wrestling Federation.
Okay. Playing the Catskills this Friday evening. Yeah, so that's Mitch. Okay.
It is. But, so we, in my ministry, I just put it out plain. I know that I'm a nobody.
Yeah.
I can talk about a lot of different biblical figures and how it relates to my life. Don't be a Jonah. He's got a calling on your life. You're never going to get away from it. The same words that were spoken to him in the first chapter. Jonah, arise and go to Nineveh. It's going to be the same message. And when he gets a hold of you, you know. So we teach, understand what your calling is. Understand what your giftedness is. Everybody has a calling on their life. Everybody has, walk in your calling, exercise your gifts. And from those 2 gentlemen that I mentioned earlier, one of them, every time that he would come, he had a big family, so he couldn't come to synagogue on Shabbat. But when he did, I would give up Torah time for him to take over the class. And he would always talk about walk in your calling, exercise your gifts. And I learned from him that when you're doing that, you end up in the dead center of Adonai's will for your life. And the only way that I can explain it is for anybody that comes from any form of an addiction background, is that it's a spiritual high. And when you're in an addiction, whatever it might be, you always take that first one, whatever that might be, and there's a whole bunch of different addictions.
Yeah.
It could be shopping, it could be porn, it could be drinking, it could be drugs, it could be sex, it could be a whole bunch of other different things. Okay, whatever it is, you get that calling to do it. If you don't know how, to answer that call and deal with it, you're sucked right back in. But when you bypass that and then you get to the dead center of Adonai's will for your life, it is that high that you know that you had, that after the first one, especially with drugs, especially with crack, you're chasing that high until your money runs out. And if you're a man, interesting decisions to make. If you're a woman, okay. So I never went down that road, but I know where it goes. Okay, that's the high that I can relate it to. But I'm now high on most high. But here's what else happens. Working in your calling, you're exercising your gifts, you find your dead center in Adonai's will for your life, and then you find out that there are people who have been waiting for someone like you to come for years and years and years. And I've met people that were waiting for someone like me 20, 30, and some. It's an amazing thing. It's just, he has a calling on
Okay,
your
so
life.
let's approach the end times differently. There are different things going on. There's the mark of the beast, but there is also the seal of God, and it's Yud He Vav He in the text, in the Hebrew text for Revelation. So,
Mhm.
how would you tell people to search out the seal of God? What would that mean to you, Mitch Chapman?
Well, that
Okay.
you want to argue with me, that's great, but let's go to the text. So we go to Jeremiah
Okay.
29:11. And what does it say?
Mhm.
That I have a purpose and a plan for your life. Plans for good, not for evil. Calling, that's your purpose. That's the plan. Okay. I can't tell you what that is, but I know that you know, and you've been fighting it. Follow it. Let's talk about it. Maybe I can help you understand what it really is. I don't know, but I do a fair amount of biblical counseling. That's
Okay.
part of the ministry.
Okay.
Okay. And then what people really don't understand, and I found this everywhere, it doesn't matter what country, doesn't matter what church, doesn't matter what synagogue, doesn't matter what form of a believer you are, Messianic Christian, doesn't matter. People do not know what their spiritual gifts are, and they don't know how to find them. And if you, I've been in major churches before we planted Kehillat Bet Avinu many, many years ago, that started out of a very informal Erev Shabbat Torah study. And then 4 years later, we had our first Shabbat service on November 22nd of 2008. So this November will be 18 years old. That's an amazing thing all by itself. But there are, or where I was in different churches, the first thing that the new pastor did when he came in is he wanted to know what the spiritual gifts were of everybody. Okay. And in all of those churches, I don't know why, but they went, first thing they did was that, and they also at the same time went through the book of Romans. And that one I still don't understand, but that's okay. And so when you are sitting under, and I've had the pleasure of sitting under godly men, godly rabbis, godly pastors, you become a product of them. You take on their mannerisms. You take on the way they go about doing their business when they're pulpiteering, not puppeteering, pulpiteering, although sometimes it does become puppeteering. You take on characteristics and you learn from them. And I tell people that I'm not a church basher at all. I'm also not a rabbi basher, but I know, because I've come out of the church, I know what's being taught. And when I was in the church, I was a leader. I was really good at church doctrine and theology. Okay. And so I know basic errors there. Okay. And let's talk about them. Okay. This is what you're being taught. What does the word really say? Oh, you're telling me. Here's the best one. You're telling me that Torah is not for today. And I know why you say that. Okay. Matthew 5, 17, 18, 19. Okay, that's great. However, have you been taught about the doctrine of the immutability of God? Well, what does that mean? I said, God doesn't change. Oh, yeah, I know about that. Do you know what the source text of that doctrine is? No, I don't know. I said, well, would you like to? Yeah, it comes out of Numbers 23. Where's that in the Bible? That's Torah. You're saying at one point, Torah is not for today. Therefore, what did you just say without knowing it? That God changes. How does that rhyme or reason? It doesn't. Okay. So, now we got them thinking. It's like, what else do I think I don't know? Or what else do I think I really know, but I don't know? It opens up a door. So when to come into churches and I am on this side, on that side, and all over, I'm not an in your face person. I don't do that. I'm not a Bible thumper. I'm not a Torah terrorist.
You're the guy that sits down next to them and just talks about the scriptures.
I'll talk to the congregation, through my speaking time, and I'll just put out things out there, and I'll say, this is what the Bible teaches. Okay. And I get the pastor giving me the eye, and I said, we've talked. Your pastor knows, okay, and pastor's my friend. Otherwise, he wouldn't have invited me to come.
Yeah.
So now I'm okay. So all I need is and really I learned this. This is ministry 101. People don't care what you know until people know that you care.
Okay.
Instead of talking to your friend about God, why not talk to God about your friend? That's a novel idea. Well, I got nothing else to do but pray. Duh. What, nothing else to do? Why aren't you been doing that all along? Crazy things. So those are some of the things that, we become involved with as the ministry. The focus is discipleship. That's where it has to start. And for me, when people come to me and they tell me that they want to be discipled, I'm like, let's go. Okay. And then there's been a whole bunch of people that just have bad motives. They want you to disciple them, and their motive is they're really looking for Mzungu's money. And I make it plain, this Mzungu has no money. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
And if you didn't know, Mzungu it means white man.
Oh.
Okay. So yes, I do. That's okay. But what I tell people is everybody out there in the audience, in the congregation, that when you look at me, what color do you see? What color do you see? And they tell me white, so forth and so on. And my first response is, I'm so glad you didn't say green. But number two, when I look at you, I see no color. And there's a hush. There's a hush. The silence resounds. That's my heart.
Good.
That's my heart.
Well, Mitch, normally we go to pin the tail on the Antichrist, but I don't feel like doing that because it's already 8:34, and it would take a few minutes. I mean, we could. I tell you what, if any of these slides interest you, then we'll go that direction. But otherwise, we're not going to go that much longer. So I call it pin the tail on the Antichrist because we don't know who this guy would be, and so Do you have
Yes.
any ideas about it? Like, could it be Erdogan? Have you ever
I don't
heard
know who
much
that
about him?
guy is.
Okay, so he runs Turkey,
I
and according to the Bible, that
Oh, okay.
seems to be that region that would
I
work out for.
I know the
Yep.
name. I've never seen the picture.
Okay,
That's why it didn't
that's
resonate.
fine. Not a problem. So we'll continue on, and then some of the. What about this? Is Mohammed bin Salman from Saudi Arabia? Oh, Mitch. No, oh no, we're fine. Yeah, I thought I lost my signal. Any thoughts about him at all, and how he's working things out in the world?
Him,
Nothing. How about this guy?
you know,
He was your president a few
yeah.
years ago
Well,
from Kenya,
I
where his
happen to
father
have
was.
been in Kenya. Yeah, in
Mm-hmm.
Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I happen to have been in Kenya in 2018 when
Yeah.
he was making his homecoming, and
Yeah.
all of the people in Kenya knew he was a local. Okay,
Oh,
and that okay, everybody knew. So, you
everybody
know,
knew.
yeah. So
So he's a local.
there was some finagling going on. People like to come out and say this one, that one, the other one,
Yeah.
and everybody turns out to be wrong.
Right.
And I go back to Second Thessalonians, and what does it say? So let's open up the Word and
Sure.
let's go and
Yep.
let's talk about what the Word actually said.
Do you want? You have
So
it. Oh, you
we'll
found it.
go.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, Second Thessalonians chapter 2, verses
Yep.
3 and 4. I'm reading from the New King James, only because this is my old beat up Bible, and I know where everything is in it
Okay.
instantly.
Good.
So, therefore, let no one deceive you by any means, for
Yep.
that day, and that is in
Mm-hmm.
italics, so, and that day will not come. Those words are not or sorry, those words are italicized, so it's not in the original. So the translators have attempted to make things clearer, and many times when they do that, they could make it more confusing. Regardless, let no one deceive you by any means, for that day will not come unless the falling away comes first.
Right.
Okay? So we know there's going to be an
Yes.
apostasy.
Absolutely.
So we can say, well, that's been going on since Yeshua left. So that's been going on for 2,000 years. Okay, no problem. But then it goes on and it says this, and the man of sin is revealed, the son of perdition. What does he do? Verse 4, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshiped, so that he sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Has anybody ever done that yet?
No.
Only, well, maybe one person historically,
Sure.
Antiochus the Fourth. Okay, and Yeshua is in his prophecy when he says, uh, you know, the abomination of desolations in Daniel, he's referring back to Daniel's prophecy, but also also going back to Daniel, but going back specifically to um, Antiochus the Fourth, but
Sure.
also fast forwarding to sometime down the corridor of time in the future. We don't know when.
No.
So when people say, "Oh, that one," and I've heard Trump is going to be,
Yep.
he's the
He's in the
guy,
next slide
so forth.
after a couple slides down. Yeah. Sure.
And so, early on in when I came to faith in Daniel, it talks about that whoever the anti-Messiah is going to be, that if you look at the Hebrew, I believe it's very clear that he's going to be a
Oh,
homosexual.
okay. Interesting.
So so that became a big thing with Obama because there's a lot of rumor that he took a walk on the wild side as
There is that innuendo, yes.
yep. So I don't know, but what needs to happen if we go to the word and stop with the speculation
Sure.
and stop with what we think and just look at what the word says? He's going to be revealed. When does that happen? When he sits in the temple making himself to be God.
We don't
We know that's what the anti-Messiah is going to do. Do we know when? No. Why? Because Yeshua was asked himself, well, when are these things going to happen? And what was his answer? No one knows but the Father. Okay? No one knows but the Father. There is so, I say to you, my brother, my sister, that is all bent out of shape and
Yep.
tilted this way for end times
Right.
stuff. If that's your bent, that's great. Go to a chiropractor, get straightened out. However, okay, what about basic discipleship? What about basic discipleship? Come on. What are you doing to read the word, take the word in, apply it to your life, and then live it out? That's what it's all about. Yeah, we can get all crazy about these other things. Fine and dandy. But where is the basic discipleship? And what I have found, Joel, in my 32 years of being with Yeshua is that those that have a bent and are just so focused this way, that way, the other way on whatever their thing is, I have found personally that there's never been basic discipleship in their life for whatever the reason. That's what I found.
I think you're
And,
right with many
no,
of the people that I think about that are the leaders of eschatology, we'll call it, or they're the rapture people. Yeah, there's not a lot of discipleship going on.
you get all bent out of shape. And it's like,
They're
okay,
date
so you
setting,
know
date
what?
predicting, things like that. Yeah.
I one another thing. So, early on, I can't, there was, I know what year it was. Another one of these date setting guys. Can't remember the guy's name, but he was a well-known Christian leader with a big ministry. He set a date, the date came and went, and that was the end of him. And this was back
Was it
in
Ken Wisenhunt, 88 Reasons for 1988?
no, I came to faith in 93, so this would have been like 94 or so. That Harold Camping, something like
Well,
that,
Harold was
is coming to my
2011,
mind.
May 11th, I think, of 2011.
Okay. But there was some guy that was also had a big radio ministry, and he set a date, and that date came and went.
Yeah.
I think it was sometime around the early, like 90, 93, 94, 95, around there. That's all that
I
I can
do have a
remember.
person in mind, but I don't
So,
want to mention his name. But yes,
okay, that's all right. But, so we get all, who is he? Who is he? Who is he? Well, okay. Do you think you're going to be around to find out yourself? And what does it matter? So, oh, I get it. You want to know when you're going to be raptured. I
that's what they
see.
want. And
Okay.
and
So
Africa is
you
not
want to know if you're going to be
what we're hearing is Africa isn't interested in the rapture, other than now it's being exported to them. So now they're starting the frenzy, which is unfortunate.
well, sadly, where does all of the junk come from? It comes from
Yeah,
us.
it does.
It comes from the health and wealth, the
Yep.
prosperity gospel, the
Yep.
word faith, all of that stuff. And in throughout Africa, it's easy to buy into. Sow into my ministry and you'll be
It is.
rich. Well, we got nothing, and to that extent, there are many who decide to become pastors because they know it's a good
Oh, it's a
business,
great business.
because
Oh,
there's
yeah.
money behind it.
Nigeria has a big problem with it.
Oy, oy, oy. Yeah, a guy named Chris.
Yeah, big problems.
Yep, yep, yep. Um, so I just, hey, let's talk
Okay.
Bible. You know, let's just talk Bible. Let's talk Torah.
Okay.
Okay. Why do you always talk in Torah? Well, you know why? Here's why. If you didn't know, Torah is the foundation of faith, the Hayasod. That's what the Hebrew word, Hayasod, the foundation. The Yesod, foundation. Hayasod, the foundation. It's the foundation of faith for all believers who have faith in Yeshua. You want to call him Jesus?
No
No
problem.
problem with me. Okay. However, don't tell me that you can only say Yeshua. And I don't want to get involved with if you're one of these Abiyadaba, not an Abiyudaya, but you know, a sacred
Yeah.
namer. Okay. I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to say you don't know Hebrew and you think you know Hebrew. And when you talk to a Jew, the Jew's going to look at you. You're out of
Right.
your mind.
Exactly. It is funny. Yeah.
Okay. You're totally out of your mind. And the litmus test that I tell people is, okay, let's do this. Okay. If you had money, and if I had money to send you to go to Jerusalem and you would go to the wall, if you would say Yeshua, people would come at you with clubs
Oh, yeah.
and they would stones, and you would not want to be there. Okay. If you start going off and saying all of your crazy names, they're going to look at you like a cockeyed idiot. Who are you? Because they know that you don't know any Hebrew at
Right.
all. Very well intended, but extremely, equally misinformed. But they don't want to know. It's a stronghold.
Mitch, we're getting close to the end here. So I'll leave it with this, but here, thank you for sending this. So peace be with you as the Father has sent me. So also I am sending you. And so, Mitch, blessings on your trip back to Africa. When again are you leaving?
We don't know the specific date, but it will be no later than October 16th
So
for
after the
certain.
high holidays, after Sukkot.
That was the original plan. However, I do know that I will be going back sometime in the month of
Sure.
Tishrei. Don't know when though, but probably not until after Yom
Perfect.
Teruah.
Okay. Well, great. Blessings on that. And then I'll get in touch with you with my friends and we'll set up a meeting somehow. So cool. All right.
Okay,
So
very
wonderful.
good.
Thank you, everybody, for meeting with us tonight and listening to Mitch's wonderful story. It's a good story. And I like the way you're acting, how you're walking out your faith rather than the big bucks and everything like that. You're discipling.
Uh,
Good stuff. All right, everybody, we're done. God bless. Thank you very much for your time and good